I think it was just a group of people really working good and functioning together. That's not always the case. Without the players, no success for Bengt. Without Bengt, no success for the players. And of course that brings a lot the team guys together, let's say like that. But it was not always funny.
Ball across to Dylan Nahi, double in flight. Oh, what a start!
Into the net.
She does it again!
Yes! Van Dijtenberg are the champions of Europe! For something here, she has a game! Across the keeper! What a comeback!
Welcome back, everybody. It is time to talk handball again, and we came back for you. We came back for glory, and we came back for the man that hunts glory ever since he touched the handball. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Vilstrup, how are you?
I thought it was Víctor Tomàs you're gonna say now, but I'm super good. I'm happy here.
Glory and Martin Vilstrup, nobody expected that, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. But I was just talking about the man that hunts glory because I was kind of gonna come over to the man that is hunted by glory ever since he touched the handball. Ladies and gentlemen, Víctor Tomàs, how are you?
All good, guys, all good. Good to see you again, and yeah. Talking about handball, it's what we like, and as the new, topics and things that we like to speak in this new season of the podcast, I'm just excited to what's coming.
Yeah, most definitely, because talking about handball gives us the opportunity to talk about the glorious 90s as well. I mean, everybody has their opinion on the 90s. Everybody experienced something in the 90s when you lived there. It was a very great time, and it was a Swedish time. But I want to start today's podcast with a little history lesson again that is given to you guys by Víctor Tomàs, because I want to ask you, how was handball like? Who were the people who dominated handball back in the days? How was the playing style? Tell us a little bit about handball in the 90s, Víctor.
Handball in the 90s was very different a sport as it is right now, especially the speed that was played. It was very, very different. It was much more specialized players in defense or in attack than there is now. Now, maximum you can have one specialist in defense and one player who is also only is playing in attack, and it was quite different. I think that defensively speaking, it was playing different, not as much as with the legs. That we see a lot of defenders now playing a lot with their legs, also with the arms. But in the old days, it was much more impacting fists, elbows, or arms in the faces of the attacking players. So I would say that the sport has changed a lot from the 90s until now.
Yeah, handball got so soft you can't punch people anymore. That's not my handball anymore.
Without being punished, you can actually, but then you have to handle the consequences.
Yeah, that is fair. But who were the teams to look out for on club level and on national team level too?
For me, it's two names, no doubt. For me, in club level, it was, of course, Barcelona. It was auto-named here by the media, the dream team. And in the national team side, I think it's no doubt it was the Swedish national team. I think it was the best. It was the most solid, but of course, there was another national teams, especially Russia, the Soviet Union, as it was before, and also sometimes in some championships, Croatia, especially, that was fighting with them. But I think Sweden was the clear dominant of that era.
Yeah, and I mean, those were the big names that Sweden actually was competing against when it came down to the big competitions. Talking about the Euro, talking about the World Championship and the Olympic Games as well. Martin, an easy question for the start. Talking about Sweden in the 90s, which player instantly pops into your mind?
Oh, I don't think it's an easy question.
Okay,
but
difficult
for me,
question for the start, Martin.
Instantly.
yeah, okay, that's Stefan Lövgren. Lövgren for me.
Fair enough. He's a guest in
Yeah.
our podcast today. That's a good one there too. But
Now
yeah,
a different name comes up.
yeah. Go ahead. Tell me about it. Tell me about all the names that pop up in your mind.
Magnus Wislander, Magnus Andersson, Svensson, Thomas Sivertsson also. Is it
Matthias
Martin
Gensel,
Bokvist?
Matt
Gensel
Olsson,
also.
Mats Olsson, Matt Olsson and Mats
Yeah, Mats Olsson,
yeah.
goalkeeper.
So-
Yeah, true. Ola Lindgren, Staffan Olsson. Yeah, a lot of names is coming up.
Pierre
Lubomir
Thorsson.
Vranjes. Yeah, Vranjes. Yeah, there's a lot of names exactly.
Just in case you were
it's,
wondering why I asked Victor about the history lesson, there's everybody popping up. Which one did impress you the most, Victor?
For me, a lot of them, but Magnus Wislander was a player who started or spent most of his career playing as a playmaker, but then he ended up being a line player and one of the best line players in the world, in Sweden and in Kiel. So for me, if I would have to say one name from that team, I would say Magnus Wislander. Stefan Lövgren came a little bit after all these big names that we are just popping up. But if I have to say one, I would say Wislander.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, Martin, that was about the time when you grew up playing handball. So we learned about you already that just like Taylor Swift, you're from 1989. And that was basically, those were the guys that you were probably looking up to, question mark?
Stefan Lövgren, probably also one of the reasons why I said his name is because as a backup player and him being phenomenal, not only for the Swedish national team but also for THW Kiel that I recall, and I also just know that in Denmark, whenever you have a system in offense that is named after a player, then you have done something right, or in terms of developing the game. So in Denmark you can set up the offense and say, hey, we will make a Løfgren, and people will know what that is. And so for me, but I also remember the other names, and I remember Magnus Andersson also because he not only was he a coach in Denmark later on, and he himself also impacted the game for some European Championship, was nominated MVP one of the times. And then when you see the personalities later on, Staffan Olsson with the long hair, 90s for me is long hair and small shorts also, very small shorts. And as I said the other day when I was in the arena and watching Barcelona against Magdeburg, Barcelona also have a guy who was pretty good in goal in the staff called Svensson. So there's a lot of names, but Löfgren probably for me because I was a backcourt player and right-handed as well. So yeah.
Well, then let's stick with him for a second there. What was it about his game that impressed you so much?
For me, was it that the smartness and how clever he was, not only setting up the game, but he could be a goal scorer himself, but also his abilities and capacity of making his teammates better in terms of what he should do in order for them to get better. And then in general, he was just a very, very good player. Played for, as Victor said, one of the biggest, if not the biggest national team in the 90s. He played for THW Kiel, who was the biggest club, and he had a big impact and dominated in those teams. And back in the days, there was also you should be able to be good in both ends and stuff like that. So there were many things that impacted me, but yeah, I think for me, the way that he set up the game in offense and contributed in goals and assists and smartness is for me, the thing that I remember the most. Because if I think about Sweden national team in 90s, it's not for me like, okay, Wislander was also unbelievable in terms of what he did, but Karabatic is not Mikkel Hansen, or in modern handball, and Matthias Gitzel also, because of the game has changed and developed. But for me, the Swedish team, just by mentioning it, we kind of said so many names, and for me, that also says that it was a team with very, very good players, but it's underlined with team for me as being the most important thing.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, it was a super successful team if we just look at the statistics. So from 1990 until 2004, in 16 competitions over World Championships, European Championships, and Olympic Games, they actually won 13 medals. I think those are the correct numbers. Yeah, Victor, was this Swedish national team the best Swedish national team ever? The best national team in general ever. So the experts took over after that era, the Frenchmen, and modern days Denmark, even older days people might remember the Russians, the Soviet Union. If we just look at the national teams, of course, difficult to compare, but just in terms of dominance.
Oof, that's a really tough one. With all due respect, I will say no. In my opinion,
we will tell that to our guest today. We will tell that
but
Lövgren.
I have my explanation. I will say France because there is only a black mark on the CV of this Swedish national team, which is the gold medal in the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
They have been there in the final. I'm not sure how many times, but
3 times.
More, yeah.
3 times.
Okay,
Yeah.
3 times.
We will get there.
And they couldn't win it. And for me, the history remembers the numbers, And of course, I can have a feeling of what I was watching on TV when I was looking all these great players playing for Swedish national team. And I have also the feeling that I had when I was playing against the French national team. And I think that the numbers are a little bit better in terms of gold medals for the French national team. But of course, for me, it's a team that it's memorable, this Swedish national team. But in this case, this gold medal, I'm sure that Stefan can explain us a little bit about it. But I think it's something it will hurt them for forever.
Yeah, looking forward to asking him that question. Martin, how about you? What do you think? He's Danish. He can't say Sweden is the best national team ever.
No, but I mean, this national team was probably the most successful that has ever been a national team in Sweden. Okay, we have Armand Duplantis now individual doing some world records once in a while. But as a team, a national team, probably most. But I actually agree with Victor, because for me, I was about to say also the Olympic Games they were in the final in 92, 96 and 2000, lost all 3 of them. France was actually for me the biggest one, also because they at a time also was the Olympic champion, world champion and European champion, if I remember correctly. And to have what in handball would probably be the triple in terms of the national teams.
Let's call it the Grand Slam.
Yeah, the Grand Slam. I find that super impressive. And that would said that was it 13 gold medals from 1992 or 1990 to 2002 or 4? Then
not gold medals, medals also in general.
That I know. I also been trying to do write down what they have won, and but still, for me, France would be the biggest. I mean, the era of the Danish national team is hopefully not over yet, but for me, it will be France. Also, if we have to look at the names, France is hard to compete with there. I mean, not only the one guy, the GOAT, but all the other names that we have mentioned a lot of times. They are, yeah, it's hard to compare times, but for me, France was
Yeah,
or has been the biggest national team or most successful one ever.
fair enough. But I mean, what's the most impressive thing about that Swedish national team is basically that it has been over such a long period. So they started their supremacy in 1990, and it went all the way until the coach Bengt Johansson, a great name by the way, was retiring there. Victor, what needs to happen within a team to hold such a dominance for such a long time? I mean, talent only can't be enough.
No. From my experience, it has to be a mix of a lot of things. Of course, talent is one thing, but I don't think it's the most important one. I think that the most important one is this character and the willing to win and to have these personalities inside the groups that are pushing each other, are doing the others next to you better. So I think that this mix of things have to happen in the same time frame and in the same space. And I think that Sweden had this kind of personalities. We said a lot of names, but I think that Ljubo Branies, Stefan Lövgren, Magnus Wieslander, Staffan Olsson, Matt Olsson, Thomas Svensson, Pierre Thorsson, a lot of them, they were big winners and they had big personalities, and I think that this was the success of them.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, now that we mentioned his name so often already, then we want to talk with him, with a guy that actually experienced and shaped the most successful era of the Swedish national team. His name is Stefan Lövgren, and we are more than happy to introduce him into this podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm actually right now in the House of Handball in Vienna for some meetings, and I have to do this podcast with you, so I'm really excited.
It wasn't the easiest to get a schedule aligned. You're a busy man these days, aren't you?
I think everybody's busy, but try to squeeze it in. We had the national team weeks for the women's last week, and now we have a meeting week here in Vienna, so it was not that easy, but I think we managed.
Yeah, fair enough. Then let's not waste too much time and start talking about the details already. Because as I've already said, we're talking about the greatest era of Swedish handball. You personally debuted in the Swedish national team in 1993 after the first successes of the Swedish national team have already been there under Bengt Johansson. How was it for you? How easily did you actually find your spot in the Swedish national team?
I wouldn't say it was easy in any way, because every sportsman are really making a lot of efforts to progress and so on. But I think the team really welcomed me, and I hope everybody else is welcome in a team as well. So I didn't have any problems. But of course, it's a new situation coming to the national team for the first time. Even though you've been playing some good games at home and so on, and being on a bigger stage, and that's the national team. So, but I think it went quite well from my side, but also from the welcoming from the team and the coach.
We in the podcast also spoke a little bit about what was the key success to the Swedish national team, and why did they have so much success in the 90s and also the early 2000s. And I mentioned also consistency being one of them, and also a lot of you players played abroad. But what do you think was one of the biggest keys to your success in terms of the national team?
Well, that's quite a big big topic, I think. But consistency is one, I think. We had a lot of players really being there for a long time, also with Bengt Johansson as a coach, really shaping something together. And then from time to time, getting new players in with new energy and new technique or ideas or whatever. I think it was just a group of people really working good and functioning together. That's not always the case. I mean, playing in the national team, everybody's coming there. Normally they play, okay, if not 60 minutes, 55 or 50 minutes, but in a national team, you have to adjust to just play 5 or 10 minutes and be happy and try to do your thing. And I think that was the key success from Bengt Johansson, putting those players together that would work and really try to strive to develop the team as well, even if you don't play 60 minutes.
Because that was actually going to be my next question, that how big of a part of it did Bengt Johansson play in this team, within the chemistry and obviously also involving every player, as you said, to still make them feel like they were a part of the team, or even though they only played 5 or 10 minutes, how much of a credit should we give to Bengt Johansson?
A lot, I think, but without the players, no success for Bengt. Without Bengt, no success for the players. So somehow that's the meaning of the team. And it was more team leaders, of course, but I think he was doing that in a new way, leadership new way at that time. It's many years ago right now, but it was quite new, asking the players, how would you like to solve this problem or this? And he always said, they know more handball than me. I just have to get them together and find the solutions, and they will do it. So I think that was for the leadership, at least in sport in Sweden at that time, something really new. But it also took some time to get that implemented in the team. So I was not there from the beginning because he took over some years before, but I was a part of it for a long time, and that was his greatest skill, I think. Of course, he knows a lot about handball and analyzes, but the greatest thing was to just get the team to work together.
It's so weird for me because as a German, you never get to hear the name Bengt, and my name is Bengt as well, just like I told you before the podcast already. And now talking about the successes of Bengt and how much belongs to him, that's weird for me. But anyway, just a short little side story. Well, then let's talk a little bit about the evolution of Sweden here, because you said it. He did something new. He turned everything around. Bengt took over in 1988, I think, and the first success came in 1990 with the victory of the World Cup. What changed exactly in that year? Why was it 1990 the turning point?
There was a coach before Bengt, of course. The name was Ragge Karlsson, and I think he should also have the credit because he was the one getting the players at that time to take the next step with training and with the professionality and so on. So he handed over something really good to Bengt that has to be mentioned, I think. And Bengt really, I think, as you said, it was not that big of a difference in how you play handball or how you think handball. It was more like a thing, get the players involved on how do we try to beat the next opponent and how do we do it? What's the best solution? Who should play? Who should not play in this game because and so on. And that was, I think that was the new way of showing trust for the player or the group of players, but they also paid back in really coming with ideas and also taking the responsibility on the pitch doing that. I think that's also this mixture was 1 + 1 was suddenly 3 then.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, in 1990, it started with the World Cup. The next World Cup had to wait a little bit. So 1999 was actually the next time where you guys were able to lift it. It was 25-24 against Russia. Game was on the line almost all the time, but a stunning performance by Stefan Lövgren and Magnus Wislander actually turned it around for Sweden. How did you experience that game? Talk us through it a little bit.
Well, there are some certain special memories. I mean, we had the red card for Magnus Wislander and Tomàs Sivertsson, the people that he came in and made a great game as well. We had some other topics there. It was a crazy atmosphere in the arena as well. So I think. But otherwise, of course, I've seen the game and we speak about it sometimes in interviews like this and so on. So, but I think it was something really special making it without Magnus Wislander because he was who he was and will forever be, and he was really a center part in the team. So I think that was really a big win, an extra big win for us.
You spoke about a little bit also about the chemistry within the team, and you mentioned the names Vislanza, Olsen, and Magnus Andersen, all these kind of names. And I actually also heard a story about, I don't know if it's true, whether you can confirm it or not, that Bengt, he once took you out of the hotel for a trip with the train and then left you somewhere without cell phones, without any know how to get back, and then he just said to you guys, now you need to find back yourself, and divided you. And some people took 1 hour, some people took 2 hours, and stuff like that. I don't know if it's true, but did that also make you stronger as a team, and did that build that chemistry you also had on the court? Because sometimes there are a mix of players playing together that maybe some are faster than others, that have a better match up together and than others. I don't know if that formed you, and if that was a part of his strategy, Bengt, also.
First of all, it's a true story. Secondly, I think it was a strategy from him, because he had the idea, I want to see, and the players should learn each other in other aspects than only on the pitch, to see how they are reacting. Somebody's getting pissed off, somebody doesn't care, somebody tried to show the way back or whatever. And he made such an impression with all those crazy stories, taking us to a church, sitting in a church quiet for 1 hour, and nobody understood why at that time. And all those things, I mean, I think we learned from each other, and also how we react, because the meaning was to know how is my friend reacting when it says 29 and 10 seconds to play, and then you have to know if somebody gets stressed or not, or and so on. So he made a lot of those things strategically to see how the team would cope, and of course that brings a lot the team guys together, let's say like that. But it was not always funny, let's say like that as well. So it was not popular. But I mean, he knew that.
But it is in the retrospective, to say it like that. Who were you teamed up with to find your way from middle of nowhere to home?
No, that was actually before my time. This with Les leaving us, so I was with nobody at that time. But he did a lot of other things, I have to say. So it was, and it was never like that. It was more like groups, 5 or 6 people there, or 5 or 6 people there, and they changed all the time as well.
What was the craziest thing that you had to go through?
I mean, we had one time we were off Iceland. I think we had the World Championship in '95 there, or was it '93 perhaps? I don't know. The year before we were there, and he took everybody fishing. Have you been to Iceland? You know how big the sea there is. Everybody came back seasick and could not go to practice on the evening, and not in the morning after. So that was one of his, let's say, not that successful stories. So it was not always funny and the best things to do. But it was, nowadays, it's a nice story.
Yeah. I mean, I would also have been frustrated with some of those things. And also compared to modern days, everybody's looking for the phone, or they have Google Maps. Back in the days, you have to fold out, a big piece of paper if you wanted to find somewhere, or you had to ask people. But I guess in some way it also builds you as a team. And I know for myself, whenever you have good chemistry or you're close with somebody, then you're also going to run that extra mile for somebody. And then you can trust the guy standing next to you that he's going to cover your beep whenever somebody's gonna go past you. So I think it's an interesting perspective. But the other Bengt, the one that we have in the studio, he also spoke about some of the big success that you had with the national team. Obviously, you also had with the club teams, many of your players. But when you think back, you as a group, which were some of the best experience that you had as a team? Also, in terms, you won a lot of medals.
Well, I think that's more of a personal level. I think we won some great gold medals. So the first time you win anything, I mean, for me it was the first Euro ever, '94. That means something special. I cannot remember that much, because it's like you are crazy all over the place, and then you win something later in the career. You can more have I can see it, I can enjoy it in another way. But we won the Euro in Sweden 2002, and that was my only championship in Sweden. And then to play in Sweden for Sweden and win for Sweden, that was really something extra. You have all your relatives and friends in the seats and so on. That was really something special. But that's for me, of course. And I mean, only being in the Olympics, then I have lost 2 Olympic finals. That's also something special. but still, the Olympics, it's so few players that really will participate even once in a lifetime, so that's something special as well. But the Euro win in Sweden, in Stockholm, I would say I will put that one up.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you're actually bringing it up, because that was my next topic as well. The Olympic blind spot in the Swedish CV, to put it like that. Because if we're looking at the whole Bengt Johansson era, 20-22 against the United Team of the Soviet Union in 92, 26-27 against Croatia in 96, 26-28 it was against Russia in 2000. How much do you actually regret that blind spot that there is in that CV?
To be honest, I don't know if you can regret. Of course, every 4th year this topic is coming up, and if I could choose, of course, give 2 other medals back and get one, but it's not working like that. Sometimes somebody said also, there are 10,000 athletes in the Olympic Village, and there are so many not being there, and even fewer is able or get the possibility to play a final. And if you put it in that perspective, I'm really proud of the silver medals. But of course, it hurts. It still hurts to talk about it, because you get the chance not only one time, for me 2 times, for other one 3 times and so on. But still, I mean, in the long run, it's something I'm proud of still, to have those silver medals. But of course.
And I mean, with the 23 years in between there, is there an explanation why it wasn't enough for you?
No, I don't have the explanation, so I have to say.
It's fair. It's fair. Understandable in that point.
Well, Stefan, I also have to say that I'm born late in the 80s. So I'm from 89, and also growing up playing handball myself, I also have to give a great shout out to you, because as a young player back then, I admired your playing style and how you played. So if you're obviously, you cannot say yourself since you're gonna play again. So my question would be, who was actually the worst opponent for you back in the days? Because we always know that some people are brought into the world to be the most annoying people in defense, or is it just playing against somebody that's extremely good? So who was the worst to play against?
I think Jackson Richardson was really the tough one, stealing the balls, were really quick on his feet and reading the game. So I really had problems with him. I have to say, we had problems with him as well as a team. And they also played not say a new type of defense, but with him you did not exactly know, because he could do something else and so on. So that's, I think, the player, and he was not hard or playing ugly or something like that. He was really just annoying because he was that good as a defense player. He was also good in the attack play, of course, but in the defense, I mean, that was he was really something extra.
Yeah, and talking about the disgusting opponents, those years that you had in the national team, there were some rivalries that were actually building up. Talking about Croatia, talking about Russia, talking about Soviet Union, Germany. You with the history yourself in Germany, coming later in your career. What was the most intense rivalry with Sweden that you had back in the day?
Well, I think it changed a little bit over time. If we name it Russia, then I mean it was the 2 teams at the beginning there, and then it changed over time. But it was not that connection with Russia. You did not play with so many. I actually played with Andrei Lavrov in Vilstrup, but otherwise you did not have so many players playing abroad at the beginning. So the rivalry were more like a sport. Okay, now it's Russia again, and they are unbeatable. Before the 90s, then for Sweden at least, but then it changed. It came new teams, more teams. We had some years with Germany, of course, really tough. And then when you lived in Germany at that time, that was something special, I have to say. But I think it still was quite a honest rivalry. It was not that big of a problem. Then you have the French team coming a little bit later for us, taking over, let's say like that. And today is perhaps everybody has a big rival in the name of Denmark, but I'm happy I'm not meeting them right now.
Because I was about to say, what about Scandinavian derbies back in the days? Because that's one thing that can some different. Then the Croatian, okay, that's a little bit more the Balkan style. Germany, you played in Germany, different
Yeah.
kind of derbies.
Now, of course, the Scandinavian derbies are always there. Who is the big brother, who is the small one, and so on. So we had some tough games. We always played, at the beginning of my career, we had those double games. We played the women's national team against Denmark and the men's team. So it was quite a big game every year, meeting Denmark, more than Norway, because it was this rivalry more with Denmark at that time. Perhaps that changed over the time as well. But that was really tough games. You don't want to lose against your big brother or smaller brother or whomever you are from the two teams then.
And then also speaking a lot about opponents and also for the listeners to understand how maybe people are preparing themselves now in modern days. How was the preparations for a game for you guys back in the days? Was it long video sessions, sitting down, watching video of each of the, can you say, important players of the opponent? And how did you prepare yourself for a game? Was it individually, group-wise?
Okay, talking about that, now you can, I have to say that now I'm getting really old, because now we are not coming to the digital era of clips and so on. It was the old cassettes of VHS and so on. So it was mostly, of course, it was cut together from the coach, but it was more clips and really working with it, watching one time, then you have to reverse the tape and so on. So it was something else. But for us, it was looking at the things I think is normal. This is our opponent. They are doing, this is the favorites from them. How should we cope with that? Here are the top players doing that and that. Not that big of a difference from today, I think, but it was more job for the coaches trying to get that together. And then working in small groups, the defense group on the right side together or in the left side or in the middle, and trying to come up with the solutions, how you should stop the attacks or how you should try to do a good defense and so on.
Yeah, so not modern game preparation on TikTok back in the days. You really needed to work. You really needed to study. But then let's transition it over to the modern days. When will Sweden be back at the glory of the 90s?
I think they are already there at the top, but I don't think now you see we had Sweden, then you, let's say France on a long time. Now you have Denmark, and I think it's really extraordinary when you get a generation like that for those three examples. But I think when you are there, you are on the top 4 or something like that. You get to the final, you have to use your chance, but it's not that easy. But I think Sweden is back on the top level, but not there to be consistency over, 8 years coming up playing the final every time. I think that's a little bit much to demand right now. But to be top 4, that means you are there. You are playing the semifinals, you are playing the medal games, and you are going to get your shot at the final, as they have had. And they also had their final and gold medals not that many years ago.
Yeah, fair enough. Martin, one last question from you.
Say, is it also because maybe the can you say the top teams? I don't know if you can say top teams, but the best teams, or in terms of national teams, have they, and maybe the ones just behind, the top teams, have they gotten better? So if I would say names, I would say Spain, France, Denmark, Croatia, Portugal, Sweden, and Norway, and all these, teams. It's very close. So just to be in top 4 can be very tough. And I mean, there's so many teams to choose from because the quality is so good. Is that the wider? Can you say wider? Depth of good teams than it was back in the days, maybe.
Yeah, of course, that's fact. I mean, looking at the experts, perhaps prediction in '94, who will be? They had 3 teams, perhaps. Today, you look at the expert, they have 8-9 teams who could win the medals, and that's true because we have that extreme development within handball. So I think that's also, so one year you can be in the final, but next year you can actually, or the next tournament, you can actually be number 8 without saying that it's a big fiasco. That's the close how the world handball is being right now, and especially in the European handball. So I think that's fair to say that it was easier if you were a good team to play about the medals than what they have today, but because the concurrence is much bigger today.
Well, talking about experts, talking about big tournaments coming up, we're starting the prediction round right now for the EHF Euro 2026. Where is Sweden going to end up? Give us your prediction.
I hope they will end up in Herning because that's where the final is going to be played, or the final weekend, let's say like that. That I hope. But as we said before, there are so many good teams. Denmark has to be the favorite, of course. I don't think anybody can say anything else. Even not Nikolaj Jakobsen could say something else. But there are a lot of good teams. Yeah. No, I don't think so. He will say that we are the favorite because we earned it and we will try to cope with it. But still, I think Sweden is one of the teams who want to be a challenger. I think also Iceland really has a good team. But obviously there are more teams with friends, with the Croatians, and so on and so on. But for me, I think it would be great to be at the final weekend for Sweden, because then everything is opened. Because it's only one game to play a semi-final. And it's only one game to play if you play the bronze or if you play the final. Then everything can happen. So that's the first step, to just get to Herning.
Very, very diplomatic answer, but because of everything you did for the handball, I'm going to let you off the hook here. Stefan, thank you so much for having been around. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you very much. Talking about old memories, really old.
It's reminiscing in good times.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cool. Catch you around, Stefan.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, what an amazing player. What an amazing guy. Thanks for all the insights. Victor, there was a small margin where you guys actually played professional handball in the same time. So you stepped on the court 2004, 2005. He retired 2009 from THW Kiel. Were there some matches that you remember in particular playing against Lövgren?
What I do remember is that is the player who I asked for his jersey, the first one.
Oh, actually?
Yes. Well,
when was that?
It was. I don't remember the year, but as Stefan Kretschmar at this moment was very polite and kind to me, and also gave me his jersey from Magdeburg. Stefan also gave me his jersey, and I have these jerseys. I'm keeping them as a good investment, as gold. The value of these jerseys is going up, and I'm a millionaire and I don't know it. But I remember.
And he wanted your jersey as well.
Actually, I don't think so. I'm sure. I'm sure he's regretting now.
Yeah, he's regretting now.
He was like, "Oh well, can I have your jersey? Yeah, just go up front. There's the fan shop. You can buy one. I'm gonna sign it for you. That's no problem." But is it something about the first name that you have? Now Stefan Lövgren, Stefan Kretschmar. Do you only swap jerseys with the Stefans of this world?
I don't know what Stefan people have, but they just are natural born talents,
Yeah, it seems like it. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about him. Victor, we heard it earlier from Martin already, what kind of player he was. From your perspective, how was he on the court?
So for me, it was before other players who were playing in attack and defense, Veselin Bujovic, Mateo Garralda, Enric Masip, Sarajevic, many others who played both attack and defense. But for me, he was the first total super player, and I think that he started a way of playing handball that developed in modern handball. And for me, for example, Nikola Karabatic is the son of Stefan Lövgren in terms of handball, so it's the improved version of Stefan Lövgren in terms of handball, because I think Stefan was a super player, a player who, as Martin said, was making his teammates better around him, but he was capable to score goals, to organize, to pass the ball, to give assists, and also to have an important role defensively.
Yeah, and he was one of the faces for that Swedish turnaround that they had in the 90s, coming out of basically nowhere to being a world dominant power in handball. Martin, was it easier back in the days to build such dynasties?
Oh, no, I don't think it was easier back then. It was probably just another way of doing it. And I mean, we have to take into perspective that can you say that Sweden in some way, in 1990 when it started, it was not expected for them to. People often refer to being the miracle in Prague when they played against Soviet in the final in the World Championship. So I don't think people saw it coming. After that, they kind of just went on from there. And one of the key words for me is consistency with the Swedish national team. But I don't think it was easier back then to do it than it is now. To compare those kind of things, also in terms of national teams, maybe it was coming a little bit with this generation, and it's one thing is that it's very talented generation, but also Victor spoke about it, the winner mentality, and also obviously doing a little bit research for the episode before, I also came across that it started in 1985 where there were the youth world championship. They also made it to the final back then, and they lost with 4 goals, but that generation and the same amount of players that played that youth championship final, they also later on was in the national team seniors together. So they kind of followed their path together. And I think that's very important. And that's why I also tried to say earlier, building a team. But was it easier? No, I don't think it was easier back then. And especially with national teams, it's different from club teams. How do you build them? You cannot just buy them unless you're, from other countries, I'm not going to say here, but obviously you didn't do that back in the days.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, now that you brought it up on the table already, the dynasty basically started on senior level. Let's put it like that. Then with the World Championship final 1990, it was a 27-23 against the Soviet Union. Martin, what changed with that particular game for Sweden?
That game itself, I mean,
no, I mean the outcome of the game, that they became world champion after that. What did that mean for Sweden, for Swedish handball?
I think whenever you become world champions, you gain a lot of respect. You start believing in yourself if you didn't do that before. And they showed themselves off very well on the biggest stage there is on the World Championship. Victor said also Russia was a big national team earlier. I also noticed that from 1990 to 2004, I think all the finals they played, it was 10 times they played against Russia in the final. But that breakthrough and that respect, and as I said, the generation, they put it all together with the team. And I think winning a championship, I never done it in a normal handball before, but I assume that you gain the respect from others and you start believing in yourself. And then also let's have in mind that handball can in one way be very simple, and that's in terms of goalkeepers. And we said it earlier also, Mats Olsson, Thomas Svensson, Peter Gent, all those names. I mean, when goalkeepers are saving balls, then that's also a part to play. But the short answer would be confidence, respect, and then they started believing in themselves. And also not only were they talented, but they now also showed that they can do it on the biggest stage, and they did for their many years after as well.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the most shocking defeats in the handball world probably came 4 years later. It was the first Euro title that Sweden took home in 1994, and it was a huge defeat for Russia in the final. So that was a 34-21. How shocking was that defeat for the handball world, Victor? And was it clear then that if you want to win something in the upcoming years, you got to get past Sweden?
It was shocking because in the Olympic Games in '92 they lost, and then when they arrive at '94, 2 years later, and they win with this kind of difference, it was really shocking. But of course. As Martin said, the confidence they had in themselves, you could feel it, is this kind of winner group that they know that even though the game is not the best for them, they can, at the end of the day, win the game and take the trophy home. So I think that everybody knew that sooner or later they would have to face Sweden if they wanted to win a championship, and that's a big achievement for a national team, because it's a lot of humble nations, Soviet Union at this moment, ex-Yugoslavia, Croatia, France, Germany, but at this moment Sweden was setting the bar, and yeah, they were the team to beat.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just that we earlier in one of the episode also spoke about Barcelona and how crazy the statistics is in terms of going to the EHF Final Four in Cologne. And I mean, in that period of time, I think also out of 16 championships, Sweden got medals in 13 out of them or something like that. And I mean, that also in general generates some respect and believe in yourself. And as Victor said, it started also back then in the early 90s, and they probably already had some of that also from their youth careers, but and playing at high level there. But yeah, it's just that they were a team to beat back then. People were looking at not only like Russia, Soviet Union, they also looked at Sweden if they wanted to get very far in the tournaments.
Yeah, and that success carried one name. I mentioned it earlier already. Bengt Johansson was the coach who actually took over, and the Bengen boys dominated the handball back in the days. Martin, what was Bengt Johansson's philosophy of handball? How did they play?
I was hoping that we could do some kind of, maybe it was my silly head thing about the Wenger boys and the Bengen boys, in the handball terms.
How
But,
did they play?
no
They
kidding.
play. How did they play? They played like boom, 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 boom.
No, I mean, how did Bengt Johansson do it? That's also again dealing with a national team with a lot of great players. But for me back then, it was more like they had a clear concept with a lot of clever players. Um, I mean, that doesn't mean that throughout your offense or defense, if they see something happens on the court and throughout the play, that they cannot be creative or do something. But I think they had a very clear vision of how they wanted to play. And Bengt Johansson was very good at seeing other teams doing something. And then he took something from that team or maybe something from the other team and put it together for his team. And I also just remember that in 2002, whenever they played the European Championship, they were actually behind against Germany with one goal, and there was 17 seconds left. He took a timeout, and that's also showing what kind of coach he was. So he said to them, "What should we play? What do you think? What do you want to do?" He was asking the players, and normally you also see coaches, demanding and saying, "Hey, you run there, you do that, or we do that in offense," and then we come to something. And then in the end of the time, I was like, so what do you want to play, guys? Because you had clever players in the teams. A lot of them we mentioned already. They went out and scored and got it into overtime, and they won it in overtime also with, I think it was 3 goals in the end. And I mean, that also says something about what kind of coach he was and the way that he wanted to play, that they had a playbook and a system, but it was also up for the clever players or the team in general to decide what to do, because once the team believe in what you do, then you can all follow along and do it. And I think that says a lot, the way that he took that time out in circumstances that's normally with a high pulse and under very, very high pressure.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't usual back then, wouldn't be usual today either. Was that one of the reasons why he was better than any other coach back in the days, Victor?
Probably yes. I think this is something we could ask, to some of other players, not only Stefan, of that team. But I think that, as Martin said, this, I would say, nowadays is more common to listen coaches ask players what they want to do. But I would say this Scandinavian style to open the dialogue, it was not normal back then, and I think this made him different. And probably he was an advanced coach for his era.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, how did you experience his leading qualities from the outside, Martin? So, how did he keep together that superstar-struck squad over such a long time?
Yeah, I think what he did very well was not only building a team, but also while he was building the team, he was also trying to improve every individual and try to develop the individual. And it's fair to say, I'm not going to sit here that remember all the stories. So once I did the research here, I also read a story about that they came to a new city once, and then they left the hotel 30 minutes away from there. They took the bus and the metro station, and then when they came to where they wanted to be, one of the players said, so what should we do now? And he said they didn't have their phones, they didn't have anything to do. He said, now you need to find your way back to the hotel. And with no cell phones being there or maps or whatever you could do, then I read that some players, they took an hour to get back, some took 3 hours to get back, and some took longer. And I think in that way you're building a team, and the way that they want to work together outside the court, but you're also trying to in some way pressure or try to develop the individuals in a different way that you did back in the 90s, because I'm not sure you could do that today in modern handball. Go with a team and then drop it off without cell phones. So I think he in his own charming way tried to control the big personalities. But for me, as I said, the key word for me when I think about the Swedish back then is that they had a lot of great players, but it was the team. For me, I see it with all the respect, but it was not like they had a Karabatic, just that one player that you needed to. If you could take him out of the game, then you were very far, because they had so many great players, and the chemistry within the team, it just seemed like they understood each other. And once you can trust your partner next to you, that you're gonna run that extra mile for him. And I think the Bengt Johansson did that very well with the Swedish guys.
Yeah. It is a key to success, and I mean they showed us what success really means, especially back in the days. But Victor, you talked about it earlier already. There is a black spot on the CV, and that is the Olympic gold medal. So 3 finals played, 3 finals lost. And how is that explainable, especially in that time back then, where they smashed almost each and every opponent that came in their way? Is it just bad timing? Is it bad luck in the decisive moments? Is it the extreme mental pressure? How is it explainable that this Swedish national team never won gold?
I would say that the first 2 finals can be something like explain about sports. It's bad lag, bad timing at some moments of the game, to lose a ball here and there and everything. But I think that it reached a moment where it's something also psychological, and probably the third one, it's also a mental thing. The pressure they must have feel to win that gold medal. It has been, it should be enormous, I think, at this moment, because everybody was expecting, and actually everybody was willing them to win this gold medal, because they deserved after all this dominance, and
Yep.
and actually, for me, it's really sad that they couldn't do it. But it shows that in team sports and a sport like handball, even though sometimes there is teams that are dominating, you have to play good, and you have to play at 100% if you want to win, because everybody is trying to win. Everybody is training to get better, and I think that the mental situation was also very, very important in those defeats.
Yeah, it remained a black spot forever because then after the 2004 time, the experts rose, the French dynasty began, and the French team actually started their way up until the top. What did the rise of France mean for Sweden, Martin?
Oh, what did the rise of Sweden mean?
Other way around, what
I
the rise
mean,
of France meant for Sweden?
yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, they came another big competitor into the scene there. If not, there already was a big competitor. But I mean, the era of France that came back in those days with the players they had into the team, was it more like that France was in the beginning of their era where Sweden was probably in the end of their era? So, another team came into the scene and tried to challenge the older experienced ones, and in some way they took over the spotlight and the highlight. But let's be honest, in general and in terms of Sweden and handball, not only on the men's side, it's a team that we speak about all the time, and also in the recent years they've been, semifinals all the time, medalists. So uh, did it mean that much in the end? It just meant that if you a team to beat back in the 90s, that was Sweden. Now they changed that if the team you wanted to beat in order for you to win, that was France. So they kind of took over the lead. But for me, Sweden have always been there. Maybe there's a down period that I'm not thinking about at the moment. But it's always been close. And the Olympic finals you just spoke about, they lost with 2 goals 2 times and 1 goal 1 time. So sometimes it's a matter of the small details and stuff like that, I think.
For for me, the rise of the Les Experts was the end of an era, because Sweden has always had good players, always. Even when the rise of the France started, Sweden has been always a tough team to play against. But again, it's the personalities of the group of players that are playing together that is giving this extra. And I think that this rise of the French national team, it meant the end of the Swedish era in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, yeah, Martin. You no, all
Oh,
right.
I
Look
actually, I
like
know it's Victor put it maybe into better words than I did, and I agree. I was just started thinking about that. Then present time now, we Denmark is pretty dominant in terms of world championships and also Olympic games. They are also doing pretty well, but it also don't mean that France is not winning things. We were also in Germany when they won the European Championship against Denmark. But for sure, a new era came with a different type of handball also. But yeah, Sweden were dominant for those 12, 14 years they had, and they won a lot of medals.
yeah, and I mean, now that you bring up the modern time of handball, Martin, what do you think? How much of the 90s Sweden DNA is still there in the Swedish handball these days?
Almost there. I, I think back in maybe the Swedish national team, by not they're still a team, but they maybe have some individuals that sometimes stands out a little bit more. But I think, oh, that's tough to say. I don't. They're not the top favorites at every championship. There are other teams and nations to beat, and maybe that's one of the biggest difference. It doesn't mean that the best players don't play in the best clubs, because they do have players playing in the best clubs. But I just think there are other national teams that are stronger at the moment. But with that said, they're still up there for the medals. But for me, present times, it's Denmark and France that are at the moment the strongest ones.
Fair enough, Victor.
I agree with Martin, but I would say that the present time Swedish national team is the team that comes right after these two teams. And for me, it's also a little bit ahead of the others. When I say others, I'm talking about Spain, I'm talking about Croatia, I'm talking about Iceland, I'm talking about Norway. I would say that Sweden is in this middle land where can win against the best and also can we lose against the ones that are arguably under them.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. That's what the handball these days is about. So everybody gets a little closer to each other. But yeah, that fighting spirit probably still is in the team. Bengt Johansson did leave his signature in the team. That is for sure. Anything else you wanna drop on the Swedish national team?
I just think that maybe back in the days, I don't have any statistics that back it up, but I also think that their glory in the 90s also had something to do with not only a good generation, but also consistency, and that not only in the results, but also in the squad that they had, and the key players. There were of course changes throughout the years, but all the key players, they stayed there. They played for the national teams. They were fit, and they also for the club teams developed. So maybe a consistency where I don't know if that's true or not actually when I say it now, but maybe there's more changes in national teams these days than there were back in the days. And I don't have any statistics, as I said, to back it up. But consistency for me was very important. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just want to say thank you to all of them because I was born in '85. Even though I look younger than Martin, I'm older, and I grew up as a handball fan, learning from the dream team of Barcelona and learning from the Swedish national team, and they have been a role model for me. The way they behaved in the losing or in the winning. It was just amazing, always a great team fighting for the titles, but always gentlemen's. And this was amazing to watch. And actually, I was in the hall in the 1992 Olympic game final. As a kid, 7-year-old kid, I was in the hall. I will check if I have a picture to prove that, to back it up.
That would be cool.
But I just wanted to say thank you to all of them because they have been an excellent role models for handball kids growing and trying to be like their idols.
Amazing. Warm words to close down the podcast. I could get used to this. I like that energy. So with that being said, Sweden is always and will always be one of the greatest national teams of all time, especially in the 90s. It was a great era of handball. And with that being said, see you guys the next time when it's time to talk handball again.